What's a fact you know that almost everyone is wrong about? I see posts in r/popular all the time that misidentify sea lions as seals. It's fairly easy to tell the difference if you see how they move on land. Sea lions can tuck their back flipper under them and walk on it, while seals are tubes and have to bounce/shuffle along on land. The myth of Narcissus. Most people think of it as he has fallen in love with himself, missing the distinction and nuance that he falls in love with the image of himself. This is important. If you run into any narcissist, you will notice the image they have of themselves is quite different from who they actually are. Also, not everyone who is selfish is a narcissist. There is not just fight or flight response, but also a freeze response. The muscles tense and the body goes very still. This explains why some people are paralyzed with fear, and freeze instead of running or fighting back. It is very helpful for camouflage and hiding from predators with poor eyesight. It does not work so well when standing in front of a speeding truck. It's the logic behind the term "like a deer in headlights." People don't seem to realize humans do it too. Most people say that trees are good against climate change. They think trees will receive all the CO2. But actually we have to thank phytoplankton for making 80% of our oxygen, and for receiving CO2. Trees also are super important in keeping regular rainfall. Think Dust Bowl. Edit, one too many S's. Porcupines can't throw their quills. But you can throw a porcupine. Not sure if it's for most people, but the people I've come across had this wrong almost always. Canberra is the capital city of Australia, not Sydney. I just want to add that the outside of the Sydney Opera House is like little tiles and not big metal panels. That'll happen when people hear about another city far more than your capital. Source: many people think that NYC is the capital of New York. Edit, for those asking, the capital is Albany. Water isn't actually conductive. It's the impurities in the water that allows it to conduct electricity. Edit, for those that are commenting that it can conduct electricity albeit not very well, I am aware. But it conducts so very poorly that it is essentially negligible. So for simplicity's sake, it's easy enough to say it doesn't conduct electricity. My chemistry teacher told the class this, and had some backlash. So, he proved it. Singers, almost universally, have a consistent tendency to sing slightly flat, not sharp. It's due primarily to lack of proper breath support and not because they have a tin ear for music. What is the proper breath support? Marie Antoinette never said "let them eat cake." The first written account of this story is from 1767 and doesn't attribute the quote to her. She would have been 12 at the time, and would go on to marry Louis XVI 3 years after this quote was initially published. The quote wasn't even about cake, it was about brioche. Her last words though were "I'm sorry," after she stepped on the foot of the executioner. Long Island iced teas do not have iced tea in them. Or Long Island. Ounces, 0.5 vodka, 0.5 rum, silver, 0.5 gin, 0.5 tequila, 0.5 triple sec, 1 ounce sour mix, 1 ounce coke, 10 ounces regret, enjoy. The Mayans didn't disappear or go extinct. They still live in Central America and speak at least 24 different Mayan languages. The last Mayan city didn't fall to Spanish conquest until 1697. Same for Aztecs. Nahuatl is still spoken in Mexico. I went to school with a Mayan, pretty uncommon in the UK as far as I'm aware, which of course meant lots of calendar jokes as the end of the world in 2012 was a thing since the early noughties. Your hair and nails don't actually keep growing after you die. Your body just loses moisture and fluids, making your body dehydrate and shrink up. This gives the illusion that your fingernails and hair appear longer. And it's what made people believe in vampires or witches when they'd look at people that had been dead for days and saw their hair and nails grow. Ostriches don't bury their heads in the ground. It would also take at least 2 people to fuck one, regardless of its health. Of course they do. I saw it on Looney Tunes. Leaning your head back is actually worse for a nosebleed. I get nosebleeds quite frequently, and whenever I feel one coming on I just roll up some tissue and clog it into the nostril that's bleeding. It's almost guaranteed to get rid of it in 5/10 minutes, but that is just me. Classmate in early high school was prone to nosebleeds. When he noticed one coming on, he just pulled out a tissue and held it under his nose. One time, a teacher told him to tilt his head back and he just said, "If I do that, the blood will clog up my nose and I'll have to go to the doctors." That it's a good idea to make furniture out of old pallet wood. No, that stuff gets treated with all kinds of pesticides when shipped overseas so you don't transfer any bugs or fungi. You don't want the gases emerging from it in your living room. I've even seen baby beds made from that shit. It's also really cheap wood and Splinter City edit. Okay, I was wrong, most pallet wood is not cheap. My bad. Still Splinter City toe. But if you just stacking stuff on it, there's no need to sand it, I guess. It doesn't always have pesticides. Much is just heat treated. But you still don't know what was transported on it, what may have spilled on it, what it might have been sitting in at some factory or whatever, so either way I agree. Your flight isn't delayed because the tower says so. They blame it on us, air traffic control, because if the airlines admit the blame on themselves they may have to reimburse you. Edit, it's weather 90% of the time. Those lying bastards. The tower at the departure airport doesn't delay anyone. When there's an ATC delay, it's because the en route center or destination airport are at or over capacity. Some of the en route weather delays can be pretty confusing, too. If your flight is up the East Coast, it might seem odd that a thunderstorm system over Ohio or Western PA could delay you, but the traffic that would go through or near that weather needs to be rerouted along routes that are often already near capacity. Traffic management has gotten to the point where ground delays have replaced almost all airborne holding, which keeps fuel costs and ticket prices from being even higher than they are. Robin Williams didn't kill himself because he was depressed. He killed himself because he had Lewy body dementia, a degenerative brain disease. His autopsy showed that he had one of the worst cases ever seen. His wife has confirmed that he had about 50 symptoms, and depression was one of the least intense. His best friend, who has a name I can't possibly spell, Bobcat Goldthwait, has also confirmed it wasn't depression or substance abuse that caused him to commit suicide. Lewy body dementia, LBD, is a disease associated with abnormal deposits of a protein called alpha-synuclein in the brain. These deposits, called Lewy bodies, affect chemicals in the brain whose changes, in turn, can lead to problems with thinking, movement, behavior, and mood. The article "The Terrorist in My Husband's Brain," it's a must-read. A monsoon isn't rain, it is a seasonal wind. Monsoon winds actually bring droughts at certain times of the year, and rain in other parts. It's a monsoon outside is not a correct thing to say when it's pouring. It's pouring rain as if it were a monsoon season in a geographical location known for increased rain during monsoon winds out there. Raining cats and dogs during the monsoon. This is really specific, but in most anatomy or biomechanics textbooks the ankle joint is classified as a second-class lever with the ball of the foot labeled as the fulcrum. This is incorrect as the system rotates about the ankle joint, not the ball of the foot. Therefore it is a first-class lever, not second. This right here is the hill I will die on. I often say, I'm not dying on that hill to express my apathy. I'm jealous you found your hill. Your very specific, very accurate hill. It's the heel you'll die on. Diamonds can in fact be shattered with a hammer. There is a difference between how strong something is and how hard it is. Subscribe for more hot Reddit takes in your inbox, guaranteed.